Hey, thank you so much for stopping by our Squad YouTube channel. I wanted to take a moment before this video and personally invite you to Squad. Squad is our youth group here at Crosspoint Church, and we meet Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock. So I just want to let you know that Squad is for you. You belong here and you have a squad, so we'd love to have you come and hang out with us. That being said, right after this video, could you help us out? Could you subscribe and could you share? That way we can get this message out to as many people as possible. We thank you for that. We hope to see you Wednesday, but enjoy this message from Wednesday night at Squad. Hey, as you make your way to your seat, could you look to your neighbor and say, right the ship? Right the ship. And so to spell it differently, on your note cards, you should write the ship. This series is all about riding your ship or your relationships. And so like I prefaced it with at the beginning of the message or the service, if you're in a relationship, we want to help you to have a healthy relationship. If you've been in a relationship long enough, maybe with different people, or maybe this relationship's been a long relationship, you've probably realized there are some hurdles, some arguments, some battles, and we want to help you avoid those or at least guide through them very, very strategically, but in a healthy way. So we want to help your relationship get better. So if you're dating someone who is not here, bring them. Now, if you're trying to date someone who is here and you're also dating someone who is not here, then you need to come by yourself, okay? And you need to watch us on YouTube later in the week, okay? Just keep pouring it in. But we want to help you to get better at your relationship. So all that being said, tonight's message, if you would like to write down a title, is The Best Me. So write that down, The Best Me, not Josh, but you. And so this series actually started because when I was teaching, I did this crazy thing on Fridays. I gave a real talk. And what that was it was a break from curriculum. And I would essentially give a little mini sermon to my students. And I didn't get fired. It's amazing, right? But you're not technically supposed to do that. But I just went and cited all of my sources. So I would give helpful information to our students without saying, well, yeah, the Bible says. Sometimes I'll just straight up say, well, now there's this guy I know that said this one time. His name was Jesus, but you may not. Jesus, in case you don't, And so I would give little sermons, and one of the most helpful ones, one of the ones that seemed to help students the most because it was the top of the mind, was the one on relationships. And so we spent the whole class period talking about relationships, and then I would take some questions at the end, and we wouldn't do schoolwork. Sorry that you didn't have me as a teacher on Fridays. Right. That's true, yes. So that did happen. I didn't get fired, right? I was able to walk away because I was like, hey, I want to do this for a living. So now I give real talks on Wednesdays. So sorry about that. But yes, some of my students are salty a little bit. But that's cool. Anyways, the best one was this one right here on relationships. And so I said, hey, we need to have a series on this. And so it's an important message. I think your relationships are very important to you guys. So I want to help you with them, and God wants to help you with them. So that being said, I would start every real talk with this quote from Andy Stanley. Check this out. You might want to take a picture or write this down. But Andy said this: your past will sink into your present and affect your future. And some of you may already know that because you made a decision that then went to the past, and in the present, you're grounded and you're not going anywhere this coming weekend. So you already lived this out, right? So your past can definitely sink into your present and affect your future. And so for the sake of that being maybe too confusing for you, the tagline for this entire series is up there in the red little box thing written in white, and it says this: your best future begins in your present. That's like the paraphrase from Josh version, right? So your best future begins and starts in your present. So despite what has ever happened in your past, the decisions you've made, you can make a great future, your best future, starting today. And this series is going to just walk out in your relationships how you can do that. So that being said, class, let's begin. I'm just kidding. But before we get too far, I want to let you know about this resource. I'm hoping that we'll have some of these to give out like we did last year. But this is essentially one of the guides that is help bring this series to life. It's right here. Andy Stanley wrote this book, and it's about love, sex, and dating. All right? And so if your parents are in the room or they watch this later on YouTube, parents, thanks for joining us. It's on love, sex, and dating, okay, just in case your parents are, PG-13 crew. So that being said, we would like to give this out to a couple of students, hopefully, if we can get some more in. And it's a little thing that we'll give away in some games. But if you already have the resources and the way your bank account is set up, go buy this thing. It is great. One of our students, she got it last year, and it highlit it up. Is that the past tense for highlight? She highlit She lit the book, like the whole thing. She's like, man, Andy's just like straight knowledge. And so it's really good stuff on relationships. So that's a great resource that you can have. But again, it's all about relationships. So here's, just so you can map out the plan, here's what we're going to talk about so that you can decide which week you need to bring the person you're dating. Okay, so here you go. So the first week, we're going to talk about God's plan for love, sex, and dating. Here we go. First week today is all about you. All right. Week 2, next week, is how to avoid fights. Guys, you really need to be here for that one. Okay, right, ladies? Can I get a little assistant? Guys, week 2, guys, don't miss next week. You have to be here. Ladies, if you have a boyfriend, bring him here, right? Say it is over unless, right? And he'll come. That's just the way we work. Week 3, the most important things that you need in a relationship, we're going to talk about in week 3. I don't want to give them away now because then you won't come, all right? So week 3, you want to make sure both of you are here. And then week 4, we're going to talk about sex, okay? So make sure that you're prepared for that. If you go home or your parents see stuff posted and say, hey, what'd you talk about? And they're a little nervous, a little shaky, let them know that Josh is having a parent meeting after church before that fourth one, all right? So it's going to be in 3 weeks, okay? And I'll announce it so they don't have to worry. I'm going to tell your parents first, so that way they can not question you and give you the 3rd degree. But then you can go home and teach them. All right, all that being said, let's get to the mix of the whole thing. So it is my belief that as a high school, I know how it was, as a high school student and a middle school student, there was this set pathway that I had, and I think my friends had, of creating a relationship. This was like the beginning, like starting question of analysis. This was how I determined if we would be in a relationship or not, and this is how people determine if I would be in a relationship with them or not. It's a big question, all right? And it falls, this one question is how we assess our relationships probably for you guys as well. And here it is. Are you cute? Let's be real, all right? So that's kind of how we do it, right? And so we have this stick, I would say, and we say, how do they measure up? You know what I'm saying? Like how cute is Bay? Like if, he's okay. Like he seems to be, he's kind of tall, Mom. He's kind of tall. His head's not too big, all right? His hairline's semi-straight, It's good, right? He's broad-shouldered almost, right? Okay. And so we have this stick that we just want to, and my dime right here, like, oh yeah, breaking the mold, oh yeah, right? So that's my wife, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Is that a student that he's talking? That seems semi-inappropriate. Yeah, that's my wife right there. But isn't it true that like we have this stick and we just walk around and it's like, I would date them. You're sitting in class, the teacher's going over some sort of quadratic equation, miss me with that. But she, if I could just get all 7 digits to meet, the requirements to telephonically connect with her, give me that snap, girl, give me that, you're right. So if I could just get in contact with her because she's cute. But meanwhile, she's on the other side of the classroom thinking, man, if he would just ask me for my Snapchat, Twitter, Insta, he can have it all as long as he's following, right? And so it's just like a matter of if he measures up, then we can be in a relationship. And so you don't have to write this down because you're already living it out, perhaps. So here is the equation, the formula for a current relationship that you may be in or have been in. Here it is. Your formula is that I'm cute plus you're cute, so we should be cute together. That's a pickup. Yeah, I just gave you the wrong. That is, there you go. Fellas, if you're single, now if they're here, they're going to know. Give them at least 2 days to forget what is said tonight. That's typically the ratio. And then you can swoop in with some knowledge. So, girl, you cute. I think I'm cute. We should be cute together, right? So you got to slow down. You got to put that emphasis in there, all right? So that being said, but isn't that so true? Like, some of your crazy friends are in these relationships with that, like, just person that they shouldn't be in a relationship with because he's cute. He's on the football team, right? He bench presses. He squats, right? All this kind of stuff. So you have all these measurements that I'm determining whether we should be in a relationship. But God has a different set of measurements, all right? And so I want to tell you, not a story. This is like legitimate stuff that Paul wrote down. And so tonight is going to be based off of 2 lists. We're just going to go line for line, and I'm going to give you a list of I'll let you determine if that's the kind of person you want to date, or if this is the kind of person you want to date. So 2 lists, all right? But Paul sets it up this way. He's writing a letter to this city in Galatia, and he's saying, hey guys, some people came through and they were speaking nonsense. They were telling you lies about what it is to follow Jesus and accept him into your life. So let me set you straight. Here's what you need to know, okay? And so he's saying you are freed by Jesus, but you can't just live any type of way, essentially is what he's saying, all right? And so here's where we're going to pick up in Galatians 5. If you brought a Bible or if you have your phone, you can swipe, cut it on, and go that way. But it'll be on the screen for you just in case. Yes, you can swoop in the Bible. That's cool. Jesus swoops all the time into my life, right? Don't swoop into any DMs during this message, guys. This is not the time to hit on someone, all right? Do not send them a DM right now. But check this out. Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. Here's what Paul said. So he says it this way. So I say, walk by the Spirit. And I know that's like overly religious, and it's like, oh, that's kind of deep. All he's saying is live God's way, all right? So he says, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. So like we talked about in the James series, like we have this innate desire in us to want to do things that maybe we don't want to do. And I'm going to prove the Bible to you in this next verse. Check this out. Verse 17, for the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit. You know that because there's some things that you said, oh, I want to do that, but then your conscience said, you shouldn't do that, right? You've said the Bible's true. It's real. You can believe it. That right there. But check this out. And the Spirit, what is contrary to the flesh, right? The Spirit was saying, you shouldn't do that. Don't do that. But guess what? We did it anyway. And then check it out. They are in conflict with each other so that you are not to do whatever you want. So after you did the thing that you said, I shouldn't do that, you did it, and then you felt bad about it. For a little bit, and then you're like, I kind of want to do it again, right? So maybe, depending on, where you are. But it's so true that we have this desire in us that I want to do some things. That looks fun. That looks entertaining. And so we do them. But there's a spirit battling in us saying, you shouldn't do that. And then after you do it, you have this feeling of regret or some consequences that you now have to do because you weren't supposed to trespass on their property and take what you didn't pay for. But anyway, it happens like that sometimes, right? We've been there. We've all been there. I went to college. More on that another time, not this series. So check this out. Paul then goes on to say, let me give you a list, because it may be confusing, like what it means to live in the Spirit or live God's way versus living in the flesh and living your own way and getting what you want. So look what my man does in the next verse, verse 19, actually, we're going to skip 18. So go to the next verse. He says this, it is obvious what kind of life develops out of trying to get your own way all of the time. Okay, so here's a list of characteristics and qualities that may happen if you try to do it your own way. Check this out. Repetitive, loveless, cheap sex. Don't miss week 4, okay? Do not miss week 4. We're just going to the whole thing. It's in the Bible, though. This is the Message translation because the other one's a little bit, everyone's taking pictures of that. Boom, right there. You're just circling this. But he says, here's what happens if you want to do it your own way. You're going to end up with that. Repetitive, just cheap sex. I know, again, week 4. Don't miss week 4. But the next one he says, a stinking accumulation of mental and emotional garbage. You're going to have all these negative thoughts that just surround you if you live your own way. You're just going to be surrounded constantly by things that you're not proud of and things that just keep coming to your mind, and it's going to drag you down into probably a depression. And these are not my words. Don't get mad at me. Paul wrote this, okay? And this is the Message translation again, or a paraphrase, really. Check out bullet number 3. Frenzied and joyless grabs for happiness. Meaning now I'm just going to turn to anything to fill this void, right? We kind of talked about this in the last series. I'm going to just search for things that I can just put in this place while I feel empty. All these negative things are floating around me. I would do anything to have these negative thoughts stop. So I just grab for anything that I can. If it's maybe hurting myself, if it's taking a substance, if it's being with a certain group of people that make me feel better because they're in so much worse of a position, but yet I'm still falling down, and I have all this emotion around me that's not positive, and it's dragging me down. So he's saying you'll just grab for empty happiness. Look at the next one. Trinket gods. You'll just start putting stuff in your life that you want to call a god. You'll start going with other religions, is what he's telling them. Like you want to follow this religion because someone came into your city and said, hey, you should live this way. And you just said, that sounds good. And so you try it for a little bit, and it doesn't work. Then you go to another one. It doesn't work. So Paul's saying there's one way to do this. It's not those trinket gods. You can't put sports in the way of God and then hope that things get better. You can't put your relationship in place of God and hope that it gets better. You can't put a substance, a drug, and alcohol in front of God and hope that it gets better. You can't just chase after paper and hope that life gets better. He's saying you're going to chase all these empty gods, and it's never going to get better. Next one, paranoid loneliness. I'm never going to find anyone. No one's ever going to find me, right? I'm getting paranoid and lonely at the same time about how lonely I am, and I'm getting paranoid. He said that's what's going to happen if you try to do it your own way. Next one, cutthroat competition. Now you don't want to be friends with anyone because they're all competitors and they're threats to what you're trying to achieve. So now I got to push you away. That's what happens if you live this way. Next one, all-consuming yet never satisfied once. I like Jordans, okay? I got to admit this, all right? I can't really preach on this subject because every time I get a pair, endless. But I keep trying to go after these endless, hopeless things to make me happy, and I never get what I want because after I get it, then I want more, all right? Paul, I can't believe he wrote this. Look at the next one. A brutal temper. Do you have any problems with anger management? Right? So if you live your own way, then it's I want what I want when I want it. And if I don't get it, right? It's just I'm angry, right? And you would think he'd stop there. Like anyone else feel as bad as I do right now? But check it out. Next screen. An impotence to love or be loved. So now I can't even get into a good relationship and feel good about it because I can't feel any love from anyone else because I'm trying to do it my own way. I thought I knew what love is, and I want to know what love is, right? So that's why I'm not on the worship team, but we have a great group that does it. But now I can't even have love. I can't find love. I don't feel love coming back to me. It's impossible because I'm trying to do it my way. And if I didn't feel any worse about myself. Next one, divided homes and divided lives. So even though I'm in a relationship, I don't feel like we're in a relationship because I'm trying to do it my way. Next one, small-minded and lopsided pursuits. All the ladies are like, men for the small-minded part, I'm sure, right? But small-minded and lopsided pursuits where I'm just trying to get it my way. If I'm in a relationship, no, we're going to eat where I want to eat at. If we're gift-giving, you get the hoodie, I get the gift card, the shoes, the hoodie, the trip. Right? So it's lopsided, it's one way. And then look at this one because it continues. The vicious habit of depersonalizing everyone into a rival. I'm taking away the fact that the person I'm in a relationship with is a person that I should be relating to. So now I've taken that away. And again, week 4, you do not want to miss it because that's where this happens the most. We engage in a physical relationship and then we start depersonalizing one another. And we'll get there. I don't want to give too much. Week 4, don't miss it. And bring a buddy, okay? But now I'm trying to just take away the fact that I'm in a relationship with a person. I don't care about them anymore. They're just a way to get what I want. Next one, uncontrolled and uncontrollable addictions because I'm trying to go after happiness and he didn't make me happy, she didn't make me happy. Maybe this substance will make me happy. Maybe if it's laced with the right stuff, it'll make me happy. Maybe if it's the good stuff from New York, my buddy can make this. If it's something that I can take, that didn't work. So maybe it's something I could drink. That didn't work. Maybe it's something that I need to participate in with someone else. And so I start chasing after all these things, and none of it works. And lastly, ugly parodies of community, meaning that I thought I had a group of friends, but we weren't even really friends. And if you actually look at the NIV version, I won't say it. It uses a different kind of word, meaning that you and that group are participating in something you shouldn't participate in. Again, guys, week 4, don't miss week 4. Anyway. Paul then goes on and says, I could go on. It's like, really, Paul, I think you kind of covered all the bases. So you can take that scripture down now. But doesn't that sound semi-familiar? Maybe not every single thing, but can you at least understand that in some relationships you've seen or been a part of or ways that you have felt in your past that, yeah, some of that sounded awfully familiar. Luckily, Paul didn't stop there. Paul kept writing this letter. So that was list number 1. Can we look at list number 2? Maybe to help a little bit. List number 2, okay? You good with it? All right, so on your notes, write down list number 2, and then get your phone out, and then take a picture of list number 2, because that's the one you want to frame. I would have printed this out, but there's a lot of y'all, okay? And I thought it would be better to let you know that you have this list. It's in your Bible, right? So you can always go back to this, but if you want it like to be your screensaver, my hope is that whenever you meet someone that you think you want to date, and right before you get your yardstick out and start saying, okay, right, and before you start doing that, you'll pull out this list, and then you'll start deciding, is this someone I want to date? So this is your go-to list, okay? Here we go. Paul goes on to say this. But what happens when we live God's way? God's plan. Right now, I'm just kidding. He brings gifts into our lives. So you've probably heard about this if you grew up in church. They're called spiritual gifts or gifts of the Spirit. And I should have changed it. They're not called spiritual gifts. Let me change that. These are called gifts of the Spirit, meaning when you live out God's way in your life, this is probably what's going to happen to you or for you. So these are the results of living God's way. He says, so in our lives, much the same way that fruit appears in an orchard, things like, and he goes on this list. So he says, affection for others. Oh, isn't that sweet? That means, ladies, he's going to watch a rom-com with you. And he is going to do a book study with Nicholas Sparks with you. Yeah. Are we going to read the Notebook or watch Notebook? Honey, both. Okay, right? Affection, ladies, isn't that what we want in our relationships, right? So he is going to be affectionate, right? So you'll have affection for others whenever you start living God's way because you care about other people. So naturally, I'm going to be affectionate. So whenever they're sad, I'm sad with them. And I want to help them. Whenever they're happy, I'm celebrating with them because I care about them. That's just what happens when you live by God's plan. All right, next one. Exuberance of life. You're excited all of a sudden. You're fired up for greatness. That doesn't mean you're going to have every day is going to be a great day and you're walking on gold and you just saw, what are those horses with the things? A unicorn. Yeah. I almost said porcupine. So I could see a porcupine. I saw a porcupine. Yeah. So you're going to see like rainbows shooting out and gold at the end of it. You're just going to have a great day. You're going to have all this energy all of a sudden because you're living out God's way in your life. Check this out, number 3, serenity, peace, excitement, joy, and peace. You're going to be able to just live out great days. Will I have bad days? Of course you'll have bad days. But living God's way is going to bring you some serenity as well. Next one, we develop a willingness to stick with things. Oh my goodness. You're going to follow things through. You know that workout plan that you started in January and have already stopped now that it's February? You'll keep going. You'll be in the gym talking about one more set. You're going to want to do and finish things because of how it makes you feel, but also the result that it gets because God's working in everything that you do. Everything I do, if I'm talking to someone, I want to make sure that it's, hey, God's in this conversation as well, so I can't just say anything. I want to make sure that I'm helping them in a relationship with God. I want them to know if I'm representing God and how I act and what I do, I want them to see God in how I do that. If I'm pumping gas, I'm just kidding. You can't. Some things, all right, you're just difficult to do. But next one, a sense of compassion in the heart. So you'll actually care for people. You'll be compassionate towards other people. When someone says, hey, you got $5, can I hold something? Can I hold something? You got some lunch money? Right? You'll actually say, nah, bro, but I love you. I'm just kidding. But maybe you'll give them some money. Last one at the bottom right there. And a conviction that a basic holiness permeates things and people. Let me translate it this way. You'll have that conscience that told you not to do that thing already, living out in your life saying, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that. And you'll want to obey that thing, realizing that's probably God saying you shouldn't do that. So now I'm living that out, and I have that conviction in me, and then I'm going to turn to my buddy and say, hey, man, I got compassion for you. You shouldn't do that either. And then you're going to take it into your relationships with who you're dating and say, hey, we shouldn't do that. I've got this feeling that I shouldn't have to do that or that we shouldn't do this, right? Next one, we find ourselves involved in loyal commitments. Oh my gosh, we could wrap up the whole series right there. Loyal commitment, ladies. Can we just clap for God's word right there? Yes. Yes. That girl ain't loyal. I'm just kidding. Yeah, right, you got to, come on, preach, Paul, preach. Man. Be committed, not need to be committed, all right? Come on. Next one, not needing to force our way in life. Come on. No means no. Week 4, guys. Come on, week 4. But not needing to force our way in life because doors will happen and open. And pathways will be given. Not just because you're a good person, because you're living out God's life and people look at you differently now because there's something different about that person. I knew them back when and they were making certain decisions and now they just act different, seem different, and I want to be around them more. And then the last one, he finishes it this way. Able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. Dividing up my time, dividing up my energy so that I'm not just trying to do one thing well, but I can space myself out to do effective things well, to show people that I care, and not just get it done, but do it with a heart to fulfill God's calling on my life. So, that is Paul's list. Now, I just want to ask you this question, and I can't answer it for you, but I want you to answer it. Of those two lists, which person would you want to date? Dear Lord, I hope you say number 2, all right? If you say number 1, we got to start all the way over and get the worship team back up here and, I don't know, get some holy water or something. Don't you want number 2? Don't you want number 2 to be your number 1? Okay. Right? Don't you want that type of person? Doesn't it seem like you could go to Build a Boyfriend or Build a Girlfriend and Cross Creek and just say, could you just give me some Galatians 5, right? But start at verse 19, nothing before 19, all right? And just like pour everything in. Isn't that true? So that being said, here now this is where it takes a turn. You know that entire list that I was just reading to you, you were thinking about someone else. But Paul's talking to you. What if you did all those things around that list? Then what kind of person might you be attracting to date? Because you are in every relationship that you are in. Right? And so it's not about finding the right person. There's this myth in relationships that says if I could just find the right person, then everything will be all right. Praise Jesus. And then you get into a relationship, it doesn't work out. Psh, that wasn't the right person. Right, you get into another, psh, that wasn't the right person. How many wrong people are you going to meet, right? But maybe it's becoming the right person, and then all of a sudden, I start attracting the right person. And so can I give you one more thing that Paul said? Paul said, with this measuring stick, that we get it wrong. And so look at what he says in verse 25. It's just 2 more verses. Or 24, I don't even know. It's up there. It's on the screen. There you go, 25. He says, since this is the kind of life we have chosen, so if you accept Jesus into your life and you say, I want to live God's way, I want to live by the Spirit so that those things will happen to me, but not just because of that, but because of what Jesus did for me. If I choose to live God's way and God's plan, all those things that he listed in list number 2, since this is the life we have chosen, the life of the Spirit, let us make sure that we do not just hold it as an idea in our head. So don't just think, man, that'd be really great to do. That'd be a really great person. You know, I wish I was friends with more people like list number 2. I wish I could date someone like in list number 2. If I could be list number 2, that'd be cool, and then leave it at that. That'd be like going to the mirror saying, oh, this is tore up, and then still going to school. Don't do that. Fix that. Or are you going to be all up in list number 1, dating all the wrong people, because you know what I'm saying? Just fix that. So he's saying you've got to apply these things. So he says, make sure that we do not just hold it as an idea in our heads or a sentiment in our hearts, but work out its implications in every detail of our lives. And then check this out. That means, because he knew it'd be a little confusing, that means we will not compare ourselves with each other as if one of us were better than the other or worse. So he's saying you shouldn't just walk up to someone and say, we can't date. You got to be at least this tall to take me to the movies, right? You got to have at least this color hair to get my digits. You have to have at least this many followers to be able to get a DM from me. He's saying, why are we measuring it by all these appearance things? Why am I like exposing your exterior and then upset whenever I get to know you I don't like you? So he says, don't compare yourselves to yourselves. Go back one more time. Take it back in reverse. I didn't get to finish that part. It's really good. One more time to that verse. That last slide. Alexa, I'm just kidding. Yeah, there we go. We have far more interesting things to do with our lives. Each of us is an original. You're different. You're an original. You're going to take list number 2 and you're going to apply it to your life in a different way, but also with the same spirit. So it's going to come out different, but now all of a sudden, I'm living a life with God's calling on it. And so that being said, can I give you a new formula? Yeah. Can we get the right formula? Yeah. So I'm not doing this anymore, right? I'm not holding this up and measuring who I'm dating this way. I would say that it's a matter of like stepping on the scale, and the interior, the weight of your character is going to be what's going to help you grow in your relationships. So let's get that formula. Here's that formula. The new relationship formula is this: the best me plus the best you will make the best us. Right? Yeah. Yeah. The best you.
They wish and they wish and they wish and they wish and they wishing on me.
But the focus is you have to become the person you're looking for is looking for. Or you'll continuously run into list number one. So with that being said, Isaiah, if you could come up and help wind this thing up. It speeds up a lot more when there's piano in the background, right? It's just like flawless, and we'll wrap this thing up. So the best me plus the best you equals the best us. Don't focus on the best person that you're looking for. Just focus on becoming the kind of person that you're looking for. And then what happens is when you get to that date and you have that moment together, it's all of a sudden it's a little easier to have a conversation. You've applied him to your life. You've got God in your life, and you're making these decisions to become the best person you could be, and you're living out God's calling that way. So, in a second, we're going to get to some dating tips. We're going to get to some, with Singles Awareness Day coming up next week. Right? Whoop, whoop. All the singles in the place, could you just raise your hand real quick? Look around, okay. Little speed dating going on in a small group, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's a reason we cut the lights out. Don't even worry about it. You good? You are good. But check this out. I know I started the fire. But check this out. If I'm going to become the best person, then I need to stop looking through a magnifying glass to other people. And I need to get a mirror. So tonight, for the rest of the night, we're going to do this prayer together, and I'm just going to leave you a few minutes to pray for yourself. Because this isn't about you if you're currently dating someone saying they don't make that list and trying to impose all these things on them. This is about you becoming that list. And when you do that, noticeable changes will happen, just like Paul talked about. Test him and see what happens. Do it for a week and see what happens. But the way you do it is that you ask God into your life and you say, God, I want to live by your standard. I want to do this, not just because of the benefits it's going to give me, but this is the person you've called me to be. So I don't want to focus on who I'm dating. Help me to become the person I'm looking for. And so that being said, if you would, could we bow our heads?